get started, I'd like to welcome everybody to our the County Parks and Recs Commission meeting. And we're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And if I can have Mr. Paul Hain to call it to us, please. Thank you. Can we have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Marie Peterson, District 1. She is here. Michelle Conrique, District 2.
Here.
C.R. Gonzalez, District 3. Can you guys speak into your microphones, please? C.R. is here. Alana Miller, District 4, is currently absent. Maria Spandry.
Present.
And Paul Hain.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum of 4 commissioners.
Thank you.
Do you want to move into public comment?
Yes.
Okay. I currently do not see any public comment for items not listed on the agenda in chambers or via Zoom.
And no action may be taken unless provided by GC 56954. Each speaker would, if we do have, it's 3 minutes, not 5. Thank you.
Okay, so you can move on into consent.
So I need a motion for approval for the consent items.
So moved.
Second. If you can just speak.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, 4-0.
Staff announcements?
Staff, I don't believe have any announcements at this time. There is one discussion item that we will present.
Okay. Commissioners' reports. We will start with Marie.
I have nothing to report at this moment. Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. We've had a busy summer at the historical park. Civil War days, the Old Hope Harvest Festival for cancer out there. The Bluegrass Festival. We had some security issues with people are busting the locks on the gates to get in.
During events?
Not during the events, just at random times.
Oh.
So we're looking at engaging. It isn't really the historical park side, it's getting in the main gate. So I'll have to talk to Steve and see if we can't do something to boost security. Somebody's trying out their big bolt cutters or something.
Any damage from when they're breaking in? Anything missing?
Busted chains, busted locks.
But nothing in the park?
Occasionally broken windows, things like that. Nothing more minor vandalism.
How's your bathrooms working out?
The bathroom?
Your new bathrooms?
Haven't been in it.
Oh my gosh, we need a tour. Sorry, we need a tour of all of them.
I think there's probably better things we can do than tour. I want to tour the new one when it gets
these
there.
are new, so, okay. And so I have my report. We had a Beck's Park Commission meeting in October. We were talking about bathroom upgrades, our proposed striping, lighting, and we were reviewing our food vendor policies. And we're still moving along there. I'm hoping it will be done soon, all of which will be done soon, but we'll see how that's going. But and that's about it for me. Anything else for me? so the next one will be for, resource management.
Okay, hi Commissioners, CMAP, if you could please pull up my screen. We're just gonna review the schedule for next year, and then if you so approve it, adopt it. So we're looking at the, I believe it's the second Wednesday of February, May, August, and November. And if you choose to still continue this meeting at 5:30, we will hold it at 5:30. So you're looking at February 12th, May 14th, August 13th, and November 12th.
So I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Marie, you seconded that?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you second that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and then 5-0?
Yes.
Sorry about that, yes.
There we go.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gracie Rodriguez. I am from the County Administration Office. Today I will be presenting the sponsorship policy for Parks and Rec. At the beginning of this meeting, I did provide copies of the PowerPoint as well as the policy itself for your review and consideration. I also have Stephanie email these out for everyone to review before the meeting today. A little bit of background, the board was interested in implementing a park sponsorship policy. My understanding is that this had been attempted back in 2013. Unfortunately, that policy wasn't ever approved or adopted. And so the board was interested in revisiting this topic. They did delegate that the Parks and Rec Commission take this on. I came to your commission a while back and asked if we could create an ad hoc to focus on this particular topic. The ad hoc has met with me a couple of times, and we have kind of reviewed the policy and are continuing to receive feedback. But I did want to present this to you today for any further feedback and possibly recommendation to either make further changes, bring it back, or make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, or no changes and still make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. So I'm hoping to get that feedback from you today. So in the policy itself, I did provide a little bit of background on how the Parks and Rec Commission was created and what the roles and responsibilities are. I also included a small portion summarizing what the Vets Commission is also their roles and responsibilities, because this does cover them as well. The policy itself is a method to utilize and maximize community resources. It is in our best interest to form these relationships, not only for us to benefit from them, but also for the community to benefit. We would be infusing any sponsorship funds back into the parks and recreations, so the public can utilize these and, in a way, promote mental health and wellness throughout the community. This policy does establish guidelines and procedures for entering into sponsorship agreements with the county. This does not apply to any gifts, grants, or unsolicited donations where no benefits would be given to the donor or the business. These are the organizations that will be affected. It's the Parks and Veterans Memorial Park budget units. So any funds that we do receive would essentially be put into a special fund where these would be saved for particular categories that either infuses into a facility itself or it can be utilized for any Parks and Rec related activities. So sponsorship proposals, we do have those guidelines as well detailed in the policy itself, but I did want to provide these key points. Sponsorship should be related to the intent and purpose of the park facility, the park itself, or any program that is being sponsored. Sponsorships will not result in any loss of the county's authority or jurisdiction. The mission of the sponsor organization does not conflict with the mission of the county or its parks, its divisions and departments, and it provides a positive and desirable image to the county and the community, and it does not limit the division's ability to seek other sponsorships additional to the one that's being proposed. Some of the entities that we are not going to be considering for sponsorships are entities that practice or promote discrimination based on Title VII, companies whose business is substantially derived from the sale of alcohol or other explicit content, organizations with non-commercial messages such as religious or political institutions will unfortunately not be able to apply for these sponsorships either. Any business regarded as adult business, any depiction that gives the appearance or impression that a product or business is being endorsed by the county or its departments, divisions, or any of its officers, agents, or employees. And sponsorships that create a conflict of interest or policy with the county. And then also any sponsorships that may exploit participants or staff members of the county itself. So determining the types of recognitions, so any recommendations or recognition of a sponsor, whether that be in signage, products, or logo placements, that is under 10K would essentially be recommended by the Parks and Rec Commission to the CEO for approval. Anything above the 10,000 would be recommendation by the Parks and Rec Commission to the Board of Supervisors. Some of these types of recognition can include on-site recognition or off-site. On-site would be like a signage or a plaque or an interpretive sign that gets placed in the park or the facility itself. Off-site would essentially be any thank you letters or public recognition at public meetings such as this one, or even Board of Supervisors. It could include any civic functions if if members are attending events. That can also be some sort of recognition that would be considered off-site. So recognition of sponsors, all recognitions have to be a level of recognition that is appropriate to their contribution. Preference will be given to a form of recognition that is not displayed within the parks. Any sort of recognition shall not suggest, like I mentioned before, any sort of endorsement of the sponsor's goods or services by the county, the Veterans Memorial Commission, or the Parks and Rec Commission. On-site recognition shall not interfere with the visitor use or routine operations. And then one of the recognitions that can be provided is the naming. Naming can be offered. The sponsorship proposal will be first reviewed by the Parks and Rec Commission or the Veterans Memorial Park if facilities are within the Veterans Commission's boundaries. Essentially, that would come to your commission first. If you will review it, if you feel that this is an appropriate sponsorship, we will make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for further consideration, final determination to either reject, approve, or provide further direction on the sponsorship. I do want to also provide, there are categories that we have created. I unfortunately do not have a slide, but I do have a section that I do want to show on the policy itself. Some of the categories that were included in this policy include events, park and facility development. This would be a great opportunity, especially with the regional park. If there is still funding that we're looking for, the commission or staff can definitely seek sponsorships that would benefit that part. Community sports teams, this is only applicable if there is recognition of a sponsorship on park property other than on uniforms of the community sports teams. And then recreation programs, if there is any programs that this commission has or plans to have in the future, that would be also included one of the categories. And then, as I mentioned, the naming rights as well. other things to consider, the County of San Benito possesses the sole and final decision-making authority to determine the appropriateness of a sponsorship. Unless a sponsorship opportunity requires the Board of Supervisors approval, the county shall act through its Park and Rec Commission or its designees. All sponsorships shall be memorialized in a formal sponsorship agreement. All sponsorship proposals should be submitted in writing to the Public Works Director, Public and Recreation Commission, or an appointed designee. The revenue, as I mentioned, that is derived from these sponsorship policies will be collected and placed into a special fund where those funds will only be used for specific, as specified in the sponsorship agreement, or any Parks and Rec related activities. And then decisions to terminate any sponsorships shall be made by the County Board of Supervisors or an appointed designee. And then we are trying to collect metrics with these sponsorships, so we are trying to implement a monitoring and reporting performance, sponsorship performance. So with that, we know how many active sponsorships we currently have, how many are pending, and how many have been terminated if that's the case. So as I mentioned, my recommendations at the beginning of the meeting were either to have further feedback from your commission to implement these changes and bring these changes back for further consideration, or review the sponsorship policy, provide feedback, and then make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for them to further consider and provide feedback as well. With that, I welcome any comments, questions, concerns. Thank you.
So, do you want to do public comment first? Do we have any public comment?
If you would like to comment on this item, please submit a speaker card to the clerk. There are no public speaker cards and there are no hands via Zoom.
Thank you. I can start with Paul. Do you have any comments or questions?
I just would like a chance to ruminate on this a little bit and get an uninterrupted chance to read it and digest it a little bit more.
Okay, and do you have any comments?
I was part of the ad hoc and kind of reviewed this with Gracie. My only thing, I think, when we reviewed some of the other sponsorships was maybe putting in like some pictures of some of the amenities out there to kind of help spruce it up. That can be done after. I did have one other thing. I wasn't sure, but I know in the past one we had something with regards to like the life of the sponsorship. I think it should be maybe referred to as the term of the sponsorship, and maybe not the life, it just seems a little too long.
Yes.
That's all I have.
I haven't had a chance to really go through it very much, and I'd like a chance to go through it a little bit more first. I was curious, administration fees and things like this, or do you have any idea of what that entails?
I would have to go back and collect a little bit more information. If there's this particular question, administration fees, I don't know if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, maybe a percentage of what is brought in would be used for administration. That's kind of
Okay.
I think everyone has very good points, and I'd also like to further read on this, and definitely concerned about the fees.
Okay.
What is going to entail with that?
Okay, I have questions.
Go.
So, the in-kind sponsorships, I'm on page 2, on 1.3. So who approves the amount of the in-kind sponsorships? Because, is it up to a certain percentage, or?
Essentially, it would be a negotiation, so whatever the sponsor is willing to contribute, that would be something that would be negotiated before it comes to your commission for final approval.
Okay, and then, on 3.0 on organizations affected, so I know we have different commissions, so I really think that the historical park should be part of that, where they have, it should be separate, like the Veterans Memorial Park. And the reason being is because we both have our own commission. I mean, the historical park it's still kind of separate from other parks. Is that true, or is that part of engulfing in the rest of the difference? Because I just don't want somebody putting big old posters and vinyl posters on this beautiful park.
So that would actually have to follow our sign regulations.
Okay.
It is a county-owned park. They would essentially have to follow the sign regulations. And RMA typically, that's in our county code.
Okay. And so, because at Vets Park, there's always signage. So I'd like to get a copy of that, because that's what I was worried about, is people were always putting signs up there without approval from the Vets Park Commission.
Okay.
And so I was worried about that with the historical park too, because, it's just so beautiful out there. I don't want a ton of people putting up a whole bunch of signage and blocking the view of their park, so. But I don't know if, because it is affected, if there's a lot of people that would want to give donations specifically for that park. But I don't know if that should be organizations that are affected, if they should be added into that as well.
I will look into it, and if I can add them, I will add them.
Okay, I appreciate it. And yeah, I had to underline the signage, regulations as well. And then on 6, I guess it's, let's see, I just needed a little bit more clarification on, the organizations that are not allowed to sponsorship. I think you did clear it up a little bit, but, so no churches or political? Okay, thank you. Because that would go against, like, Veterans Park, because we kind of have the same, we run the Vets Park kind of, we have 3 veterans organizations, and so that would go against our charter organizations, where we would not be able to endorse anybody. So that would be helpful, so I thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And, the other, so now on procedures and guidelines on 7.1. So community sports teams. So Hollister Little League always has banners that are inside, and so does Hollister Heat and Bambinos, and so they would have to follow this process, because that might. So not only do they have to do paperwork for each sports organization, but now they're going to have to do paperwork with the county too. That I'm worried about that deterring people from wanting to sponsor.
If there is a concern, as I mentioned, this is an opportunity for feedback. I can definitely look into this further, but if there is a major concern, we can
I think that would be, you get a lot of pushback from Vets Park, because they would be saying, oh, well, you know, we take them down every year. They get sponsors every year, but having them take it off their fence,
Yeah.
it's actually not, and it's in their areas. So it's not going to be like outside of their gates. It's all inside. So it is, it's within their little islands. And so I would be concerned about that.
Okay.
It's very hard to get sponsors, so. And then, on 7.2, the plaque and signage, I think we should have a standard plaque, like a standard size plaque, because I don't think it's fair for somebody that comes in with $1 million to have like a statue built after them. So I think it should be just a standard size. It could be from bronze to whatever. I mean, they're not that expensive, but it should be a standard size. And I think that we have to clarify, because I know this is one thing that I had problems with when we were doing the time capsule, is that are we going to have the County Board of Supervisors names on them?
Yeah.
We need to have a little bit more, guidance on what has to be on the plaques.
Okay.
So, because we had to make sure, because I was spelling somebody's name wrong, and so I had to have clarification of who was gonna be on there, and so, it just, a little bit more clarification on what goes on the plaques and what the size of the plaques are.
Yeah, you can
That
elaborate
was,
on
that's
that
the only
section.
thing there.
I had a question about 7.3. That's where it says here, under $10,000, would you, is this where she's talking about the plaque?
No,
Because
the-
it says here, there's gonna be different recognition for under 10,000 and over 10,000.
So the type of recognition that is up for negotiation, so depending on what the sponsor wants to sponsor, like I mentioned, it could be an interpretive sign, it could be a plaque, it could be something it has to match the value of what it is. If it's under 10K, it would essentially be a recommendation from your commission to the CEO. If it's over 10,000, it's a recommendation from your commission to the board of supervisors.
And then you said that you're gonna have like recognition, are you gonna have like a board someplace of, I know you go into some places where they have like a board with like little, brass plates of who donated what. Can we have something like that if it's over like a $5,000 board and then a $10,000 board, 10,000 and above? Just so that it could be a permanent record of who's donated to each. Is there room in the lobby that we could do something like that?
So I did review other sponsorship policies, and that's something that was included in their policies. I didn't include it in this one because I wasn't sure if that was going to be within our capacity, but if it's something that you want to include in this policy, you can definitely put it in there and the board of supervisors can consider it. It would be a cost to the county to a minimal cost to implement that, but that's definitely something that we can consider.
It's just nice to see the historic, like the history, because when I went to San Jose Sharks, they have all these people, and it was amazing to see how many people contributed to that. And I really think that Hollister is such a small town that people like to see their names, especially given a substantial amount of money. And our parks has always been one of those where we've never gotten a lot of recognition, or people have not gotten recognition, or they've been neglected. And so showing them, wow, we really appreciate you, and we're going to have your name in our lobby. I think we really should. So,
I will include that.
okay,
I
thank you.
agree. I agree with that.
And that's all I have. Sorry.
With that, I just want to clarify that I will be taking your recommendations, implementing them, and then bringing this item back to your commission for further consideration, based on the discussion that we currently have right now.
And so if you can do me a favor, so if you can, when you do the updates, if you can send them down
Yes.
Immediately, and then since our next meeting is by February, if we can have everybody review it and have it completely ready, or if you're ready to have it, can we do an email vote of some sort so that you can proceed, or just so we've been delaying on this a long time, and I don't want you to have to wait longer.
It would be
Approval?
a special meeting. I'm not sure who the chair is, but I'm going to assume you are, Maria. You can call for a special meeting.
Do you have a time limit is what I'm asking then?
No.
Okay, so then we could, I mean, I know the Board of Supervisors might be disappointed, but we do have a meeting in February. Is February,
It should be an okay
That
time.
okay?
Typically, January is jam-packed with a lot of meetings. And we're getting a new supervisor, so he's hopefully being acclimated during that time, and
Okay.
then we'll have an opportunity.
okay, so yeah, if we can just be ready with reviewing it. And then whenever you finish with the updates, if you can send it to us so that we can have that reviewed and ready to do that for you. So.
Okay.
I like time limits. If you give me a time limit, I'm going to get things done on those time limits. So if you tell me you have to do it now, I'm going to be done. That's what my supervisor usually tells me, like, get it done. So, okay. So, is there any other questions or anything else?
Brought up some stuff that we didn't think of.
Okay, sorry.
It's good. Good feedback.
Yes,
If I can just get a motion to make those changes and bring it back.
Can I get a motion for changes to be, for her to move forward with updating? Second motion, please.
A motion for you to move forward with this.
Okay.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think the next one will be Mr. Luke, Public Works Administrator, our favorite person.
Alrighty. All right, good evening, Commissioners. Yeah, Steve Luke, Public Works Administrator. Thank you for being here tonight. We're going to start an update real quick on Vets Park, although I know some things have already been mentioned a few minutes ago. So regarding dates for that bathroom that is being upgraded near the skateboard park, we are waiting for some partition walls to arrive. Once they arrive, then we'll install the plumbing fixtures. And so we're just waiting for the partitions to arrive. So hopefully we can complete that bathroom in December. And anyone can reach out to me if they truly do want a tour beforehand, before it's open to the public. That would not be a problem at all. A couple of other quick things. As was previously mentioned, we're working on a surface parking lot design and lighting design for Vets Park. And so we did make a pre-submittal to the city. They gave us some comments. We've actually ordered a very large water meter because the meter at Vets Park, or the water at Vets Park, has never really been metered by the city. And so they want to get a handle on how much water they're providing for Vets Park specifically. So that's the one thing the city asked for, and so that will be installed as part of the parking lot improvement.
To fields, or are they providing for all?
My understanding, and I don't know, because they actually don't bill the county, but I think they provide the water for the entire area, and yeah, quite a bit of water. So they're trying to get a handle on the amount of water that they're providing. So they asked that we install a water meter. They have a 6-inch water main, and so we're going to be putting a pretty large meter there. But that was really the main request on the plan review. And so we do intend to complete that before spring ball, which I believe is in March. So that's still on schedule. And then one thing worth noting also, with Vets Park, we had a real good meeting, as was mentioned by Commissioner Spandry. And one of the items that we discussed a few weeks ago at Vets Park is the Bertha Briggs building. And so even today, I talked to VFW, and we're going to be scheduling a site visit with them to look at the Bertha Briggs building, because they're considering applying for a grant to either remodel the building or demo it and construct a new building. And that's being considered in conjunction with having that facility available to the community. So one thing that came out of that meeting was the Bertha Briggs building was donated essentially for community uses. And about 3 years ago, there was a real small fire outside, and long story short, the building got red tagged, so it's pretty much been out of use for the last 3 years. And so whatever happens with the building, the direction to staff was ensure that when it's opened up again in whatever format, that the community can use that facility. And so that's kind of the status with Bertha Briggs. Hopefully we can make some progress with the building and perhaps work with VFW, and we'll see where that goes. But so jumping to the historical park, a couple more things. So we had the bathroom remodel completed, as was mentioned, but the county also designated some ARPA funds, $750,000, for a new bathroom with showers to be installed next to the dance hall, which is across from the saloon, essentially. So we've been working on the design with the civil engineer. They've done surveys, and we've got the design going. We've got a couple projects we're looking at, which will show you we're pretty close. Matter of fact, when Gracie sends out the changes to the sponsorship committee, I'll show you a couple I'll send the concepts for that bathroom aesthetically. It's basically going to have a couple showers and then men's and ladies' rooms, but I'll send it to you for your input. And you can just, it's not formal, it's just provide your input, please, and if we need to discuss before February further, we will, but we're looking at just a couple of concepts on the aesthetics for the historical parking. Probably be a couple other folks just to gather some input on that restroom, but that's actually making progress. The other thing that came up over the past month or so, actually the last couple months, we met last year in May, I think it's been a little while. So the State Water Board actually reached out to the county, and they've been doing this with a lot of other parks that have kind of gotten off the grid from COVID. Because during COVID, what happened with not only our historical park, but other parks around the state, is the parks and the state Division of Drinking Water essentially agreed that park membership had decreased because of COVID, perhaps. Whether or not that was true, but and so therefore the water systems were not considered public water systems, and so the state stopped regulating them. Well, the state reached out to several parks over the past few months, including the historical park staff, and asked us, do you have 25 visitors per day for at least 60 days per year? Yes or no? And that includes staff, which is just a few folks, but staff at the park. And so we kind of went back and forth, but the decision was that yes, historical park college does have 25 visitors per day. Therefore, we need to be regulated as a public water system, which, generally speaking, is a good thing. And so, over the past few months, county staff engaged a consultant. They've been doing water testing, and so we're about 2/3 done with submitting an application to the state, and the state is asking for that application essentially to become a public water system. And so once that happens, the state will just regulate the water system at the park. And as part of that, we've designated ARPA funds, not necessarily for that activity, but just in general, we've designated ARPA funds to the tune of $100,000 to have a new filtration unit put on the water system, so it can be used as a potable system again. And so far the tests have actually been coming back fairly clean of just the water in general, but we'll still put that filtration unit on there. That'll help us with the state and the water system, and so that's actually in the works. So once we have this bathroom system designed, then we'll probably have the same engineer, or maybe a different engineer. We have a list of on-call consultants, just pick the water system to be installed at the historical park, and hopefully get that installed in the spring. So, moving on to the historical park. Other good news. So, there's an agency called REACH, and for those of you that aren't familiar, they're kind of a local group of park and trail enthusiasts, and they do all kinds of fun things with trying to bring attention to our park and trail system. And so they actually received a grant to the tune of $50,000 a few months back. They also want to throw in about another $7,000, so that they're going to contribute about $58,000 to a project that costs about $110,000 roughly. And so they asked if the county was going to partner with REACH for the historical park and contribute another $50K, so it'd be a partnership to install shade structure and some trees and some parking in one area where the existing playgrounds at the historical park, which I think is a great idea because you need more shade over there, especially obviously during the summer. So just this last Tuesday, the county board of supervisors agreed to contribute the $50K in a partnership with REACH, and so now that project can move forward. We're going to get a contractor moving forward, and hopefully, I don't know, also install that in springtime. So that's another piece of good news for the historical park. Yes, it is good news. So, jumping over to Sunnyside, and I can pause it now or keep going at the commissioner's direction. Keep going. Okay, here we go. Sunnyside Park. So we were hoping a couple months ago to have this occur, but it's getting close. We actually have a contractor selected for Sunnyside Park, and just for those folks that aren't familiar, Sunnyside Park actually consists of two separate parks. One is located in Sunnyside Estates, which is near Southside Road and Hospital Road, where the new bridge is, and the county was donated the park area after acquiring some park impact funds from Bennett Ranch and some other areas. We have the funds now to construct the park. Phase one is to build a wood fence, kind of a standard good neighbor wood fence around the park. And the reason for that is there's some minor issues of folks that are accessing that neighborhood from the river, because it butts up against San Benito River right there. And in retrospect, the county should have just required the original developer to put a fence around that park area, but that didn't happen. So step one is just getting a fence there, and that's going to cost approximately $90,000. There was some discussion of other types of fencing, i.e. a metal fence or a masonry type of wall that would be more permanent. The problem with both those items, the metal fence was going to cost about $300,000, and the masonry block wall, which would be the safest thing to install, permanent thing, that would be about $400,000. Total budget for the park is about $800,000 for that one, and $800,000 for the other park. So those are a little bit out of our budget realm, but I think a wood fence will accomplish what we need. And so that should be installed very soon. And I'll just leave it at that. And then the actual remainder of the park should begin construction in the spring. And it will start in the spring. Hopefully the playground equipment is available, but that's the status on Sunnyside Park. Riverview Regional Park. So, still on the same schedule as we showed you last time. The environmental analysis and design package is to be completed this upcoming March. Construction will begin in June. And we think the construction, based on the current scope, could be between a year and maybe even longer, but for now, we'll call it a year. And so it was thought, before we talked to some contractors, that maybe you could complete it in 6 or 8 months, but they said, no, it's probably going to take you a year, and maybe a little bit longer than a year. So that means the construction for Riverview Regional Park, which is located in high school, will probably finish in June of 2026. And a couple more things with that. So we have $800,000 grant to complete half of the parking lot that's shown in the gray at the kind of upper right area of the parking lot, or the park. So Robert Rivas, our representative, he secured $800,000 for the first phase of the parking lot. And then the state is providing another $2.4 million for part of the park, and then we also have park impact fees to the tune of about $3.6 million. So we have about $6.8 million set aside for the park, and most of the major amenities can be constructed with that amount of money. However, we still need money for landscaping. We need money for, and these what some of these yellow arrows here are for. The amphitheater that was could go at the top of the softball field there. That's not funded. So what you're looking at, I should take a step back, I apologize. This is sort of everything on everybody's wish list is what's shown on the image behind us. Well, there's been some things added through stakeholder meetings and meetings with various entities, and so a few of these items I'm mentioning, these are just, they're good amenities. We want to build them, so we're actually going to be applying for another grant, which I'll mention in a moment. But so the concession buildings, restrooms, storage areas, I'll take it back. Some of the restrooms are funded. Not all the restrooms are. I think we want to build 6 total. We can build a couple now. So there will be restrooms regardless. And the amphitheater's not funded yet. Let's see. The high school golf team thought it'd be fun to have a little chipping green there, chip and putting green. It's not funded yet. Neither is bocce ball courts. The botanical gardens are not funded. The community garden is funded. The softball amenities, plaza, playground. So our designers had a real good idea to put a little playground in between the softball fields, kind of similar to the one at Betts Park. And then there's a little nature play area, which makes me nervous, but sounds fun. It's mud and some little rocks for the little munchkins. So that's not funded. So long story short, also at the meeting yesterday, the board agreed to a partnership MOU with that same group, REACH, specifically to submit a grant application to the US EPA for construction and programs at Riverview Regional Park. So the MOU, it's not a general MOU, they agreed to an agreement to submit for that grant. And a couple things worth mentioning of that grant is that it includes, if the grant is awarded to the county or other folks, any other agencies, it's going to include programs that actually are for educating youth about trees and nature and park operations and just sustainability strategies. So like our integrated waste team, they're kind of contributing to some information to how the grant could help just educate the community on taking better care of our environment, generally speaking, which would be a great thing. It also helps implement some of the programs for the park. One of the things we're going to do for the park that's already funded, and this is kind of in teaming with the high school, we're going to have 4 or 5 outdoor classrooms where you have just a few rows of seats and kind of a big whiteboard type of structure. And so the teachers from the high school or other folks can come and have some mini outreach sessions, teaching sessions with whoever, youth, adults, and everybody in between. And so this grant would utilize some of those outdoor classrooms, which I think would be a nice feature as well. And the grant actually also pays for 3 years of a person to manage a lot of the programs for the park, because we're going to need that, and the county will need that. And in addition to that, there's actually a half staff person for just pure community outreach for the park, and that'll kind of dovetail into the sponsorship type of situation. You asked a question about admin costs. I think a lot of those could be absorbed by this grant actually, which would be wonderful, because the grant's all about helping to manage the functioning of the park for 3 years. And then obviously it builds some of those permanent features I just mentioned. But so a little bit of information on the grant. It's actually, we submit it in 2 weeks, and then it'll take a few months. I'm guessing we'll know about somewhere in the spring if we're awarded that grant, which would be great, because then we could build out the park ultimately and not have to do it in stages. So on that note, so next year, I'll mention some in a second, and I brought some images way back, but there's 2 parks being constructed by San Juan Oaks, which is a development if you're heading out of town on Union Road, and there's a big golf course on the left that just got reconstructed. Part of the scope of work for that project is to install 2 public parks. Now, we already have the CFD's fees established, which is Community Facilities District fee structure, to maintain those parks. So that's the good news. But something we'll probably definitely have to come back to this commission is, one of the parks is just a dog park with a little garden, and it's Just kind of a fun place to hang out if you have pets and spend some time in that area. So that's pretty straightforward. The other park that they're going to install, it's essentially a wide trail that's meant to have a dozen or so pop-ups. And so we'll be coming back to this committee to say, okay, should we have a marketplace on Saturday morning, with pop-ups, and how should that look? Or what should we do with this, they call it like an event corridor area. So if you took downtown's market on Wednesdays and shrunk it down quite a bit and made it linear, it would be something kind of to that effect is what they're doing, and they're installing it in the middle of their olive orchard. So it's kind of a picnic marketplace, I don't know, foo-foo area I'll call it, but it'll be fun, but we'll need a little bit of direction from this committee on how that operates and how that works, and so that'll be good. So on that note, on the upcoming budget, which we're going to start in January for county staff budget, RMA will be asking for at least one parks person to just help oversee and manage some of those things, regardless of this other grant that happens, because between Riverview and those two parks, even though a lot of the things we do is with contractors and maintenance, a lot of our other CFD parks are maintained by contractors, we still need some extra staff to kind of provide input and manage some of those things. So we'll be asking for at least one staff person, maybe two staff folks in the next upcoming Board of Supervisor budget discussions. We start around January, February, and then it goes all the way through July before the budget's actually finalized. So, a lot of good things going on. Let's see what else. Oh, probably in case some folks here don't know it, there is a moonlight walk this Saturday at the Anza Trailhead, which is in San Juan Bautista, if you haven't been there. So we've been trying to blast it on social media, and I think Benito announced it. So if you want to hike through the trail, I think the event starts around 3:30, and everyone's going to hike out as dusk starts and kind of just do a trail, kind of historical thing. Should be fun for everyone. So if you have time this Saturday on the 16th, you can be out there, and I will pause there for public comments and commission.
There is no public comment in chambers or via Zoom.
Do we have any comments or questions from commissioners?
I had one question, Steve, as far as the additional parks, especially the Riverview Park. Is there funding for the sheriff's department or some sort of agreement with Hollister City Police to provide security and patrol?
Great question. We have had a conversation several months ago with Sheriff Taylor. One thing that's going to come from our encampment, let's see, what should I say? On a totally separate track, county staff has been working on a homeless encampment strategy to deal with some folks that are living in the river and maybe living in areas that won't be good if we have flow through the river. And so, as part of that discussion, which relates to Riverview Park, the board just approved a full-time sheriff to actually, that person, his or her full-time job will be to monitor the rivers, including the edge of Riverview Regional Park and literally the park, hopefully. Although again, I just had that conversation several months ago with Sheriff Taylor, so I'll remind him about Riverview when it gets built. But that's the full-time job of this new deputy that will be hired over the next couple months that the board approved. And so, yeah, I think that person will be able to provide security for Riverview.
Thank you.
So the two new parks in San Juan, so that's part of whose district?
I believe it's the borderline between Colin Kosmicki and maybe Hello? I'm not sure. Yeah, there's a borderline right around San Juan Oaks. I can find that out for you.
Just so that that person knows now they have new parks and so that they can make sure to keep an eye on what's going on. That would be appreciated.
Yeah, you bet. And one thing to note, I probably should preface this, that the park concepts and things were sort of already detailed in the specific plan. Staff's actually going to meet this Friday. We'll have a meeting this Friday to see the final concepts and whatnot, but a lot of the details of the park, well, the general concepts were already technically approved in the San Juan specific plan, just to note. But that's a good point.
I really think the person that is in charge of those districts should have been included in those in some way, shape, or form, just so that they can know what's going on.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to be in charge of reporting back to their supervisor, and so they should be included.
Yeah, I agree.
Possible. So.
I agree.
Especially since we're already past that, where it's already been approved, and if there's a meeting coming up, whoever's really need to be up to date on what's going on.
Yeah, and I should preface it. The only thing that's been approved was 12 or 15 years ago when San Juan Oaks was approved, but the actual, we're still working on the park design approval meeting on Friday, so it's not final. But I'll definitely.
Thank you. Yeah. So whoever's in charge of those, just so that you can be able to give a report back.
Sounds good.
To your supervisors. So, okay, and you said you needed a parks commissioner for what? You said you needed somebody? I thought you said you needed a commissioner to sit on some other kind of committee?
Well, we'll need your input once the design has been finalized for San Juan Oaks. We'll probably need all commissioners' input on how that market corridor, picnicky area should kind of operate a little bit, and hours and those type of things. And should we have the market Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings? Because it's going to be a county park, so it's kind of your decision on those type of strategies on how it really operates. So, but again, we're
not even
quite
close
there
yet,
yet. But
I just want to make sure that whoever is going to be, they work with the Downtown Association, because I don't want to step on their toes. They do a lot they work really hard, and so we don't want to step on their toes in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
Because they really do have a good rapport with the rest of the community, and we just need to make sure that we let them know what we're doing too, because I don't think Omar Rosas knows about this, and so I just want to make sure to have a partnership with them, because why reinvent the wheel? Because he's a pro, and so if the commissioner, whichever commissioner or the commissioners have any questions, it would be he's very workable with whoever wants to be part. To help our community. He's a very community-oriented individual, is what I'm saying, and I know he'd be willing to give a little bit more insight of what worked and what hasn't worked, and the times that are good and the times that are. Because there's really, unless you've been doing it for a long time like he has, we don't really know, and so he's a really good asset. So
absolutely.
But I just want to make sure that he's in the know.
Sounds good.
How big is that park that you were talking about, the park there?
I want to say that the smaller one, and Aro can correct me, I don't know, the smaller one's 3 acres-ish, and the linear one is maybe just a couple acres of the park, but again, it's in the middle of a large olive tree field, so yeah, I guess we'll find out a little more on Friday, the actual sizes. I'll send the concepts. I can send the concepts to this committee in addition to the aesthetics, and maybe that's what you're referring to, Commissioner Smiley, is I'll be sending the 2 or 3 concepts for the aesthetics of the historical park, new restroom / shower facilities. That's what you're referring to. But in addition, after Friday, I can send what we received from San Juan Oaks park design folks, just so you can see.
That would be wonderful. I'd appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Does anybody else have anything else?
I had a question. I wanted to know, I know you said some of that stuff for Riverview wasn't funded yet. Do we have like approximate costs on what that stuff's gonna be. Well, like, for example, the high school, the golf chipping area, all the, I guess, the smaller stuff, not necessarily the end area.
Yeah, well, put it this way, the grant we're gonna go for, if the minimum we can ask for on this grant is $10 million and, a couple million, well, put it this way, we'll probably ask for even more than that. Anything extra that we can pay for of the existing amenities, we'll do that, that we save some of our park funds. But to answer your question, I think between the amphitheater, the landscaping, all those items I mentioned, we could probably spend another $4 or $5 million-ish. The landscaping alone is like a couple $1 million if we really want to do it properly out there, believe it or not, with the irrigation system. So, again, the $7 million we have, that will actually build pretty much all the general amenities, the structures and things, but we could probably double that with this other grant, with the landscaping and the amphitheater and bocce ball courts and the little putting green. I don't know, to answer your question, I don't know, that maybe $100,000 or so, a couple other grants, if that's your specific question.
Okay.
And again, if we don't get the grant, then we'll be, there's a couple other grants we'll be able to pursue in the next 6 months. But depending on how successful those are, that sponsorship program could come in handy too for some of those small items.
Thank you. Any other questions? So, the only thing that I know we don't have on the agenda is, requests for future agenda items. So we could do that, but, the only thing that I wanted to know is training notifications in the future for our commission. I know we were talking about having, with new board of supervisors coming in, they do have a retreat. And if there's any way that we could get training for like Brown's Act or whatever trainings that we could get, because we've never been offered that. And I think it's important because I sit on 2 commissions and, I've read a book, but I would rather, have a little bit of training. But if it's open to the public, I think it's important for all of us to see if you're expecting us to sit on this commission, we want to do a good job for you. And so if any training that you have possible for us, and so that we could do a better job, we'd appreciate it. So.
Sounds great. Look into it.
And that's all I have because I know we don't have it on the agenda, but if there's anything, if anybody else has any requests for agenda items, if you can email to Steve, and we can just see what we can add in for February.
Sounds good.
And I think would be the only other thing too is maybe give each of the commissioners a list of their parks that they're responsible for, just so that they have an idea of what they're supposed, because I regularly do. I don't want to say drive-bys, but I drive through the park all the time, so I know that's my responsibility. But I'd like to know if everybody else knows where they're supposed to be doing drive-bys. Just to kind of check in the park to see if there's any concerns, and because it will better help them report back to their supervisors.
Okay.
And I would suggest that you drive by different times of the day to see lighting and that kind of thing. But it'd be interesting because, I drive by sometime at night just to see if our flag is lit up, and so there's just different things that I look at to see who's in the park at night. I'm not stalking it, but I'm kind of protective over our park, but by not knowing what parks we're responsible for, I think it's hard to give a good report. And I think that's why we have vacancies. We've had vacancies in the past is because we don't really know what we're supposed to be doing. And so when we have the retreat, if you can ask the supervisors, what kind of reports would you like from us? How often would you like reports from us? Those kind of things. And it's just going to be better. How can we have a better partnership with our supervisors? So.
great, yeah, I'll kind of
That's all I have.
apply that to the vets commission.
I
as well.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
We definitely take a list of what I could do.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of easy just to show up to a meeting, but you're giving us a report, but I don't have a report for you because I don't know what I'm supposed to be responsible for. And usually we're doing this as a favor for our supervisor. And so it's a volunteer position, but I still think that if they know where they're supposed to be, it's easier to give a report, so.
Absolutely. I mean, the San Juan Oaks Parks is a great example. Once they're built, and one of you hopefully kind of take ownership of those parks and then report
And I think
back.
that's it. We want to take ownership of it, just to, because we do have a pride of our parks. I mean, I'm probably a little bit too much, but it's because I really take pride in it. So, and I'm hoping to have that passion with the rest of the commissioners. So, that said, I'd like to ask for. Can I get a first for adjournments? Oh. Can you turn on your mic?
It's a couple of days late, but I wanted to say thank you to our veterans.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for your service.
I
all of our
appreciate it. Thank you.
veterans.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I thank my father because without him dropping bombs on Japanese and Germans and Italians and North Africans, I wouldn't be here. And he came home, luckily.
My dad was at Normandy. He got
Oh.
dropped off at Normandy, World War II.
Wow.
Yeah, he came back, barely came
Mm.
back. With PSD though, but no one remembered that. No one knew about that back
At that
then.
time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But it's very important, I think, that we recognize and thank for your service and the duty you did, and thank you for coming back.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that you'll see. Most of us veterans, we don't usually talk about it, and we don't usually seek out recognition. So we do appreciate your thanks. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
So motion to adjourn. So I need a first. Are you first? A second?
I second.
All in favor?
I
Thank you. 6:38. Thanks so much.